All right, nerds, we are talking about Game of Thrones House of the Dragon. We are going to review the first 3 episodes and then get into a spoiler breakdown of the episodes starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Soul Show. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Paula.
Hey, so we are a little late in starting to review the show, but we'll be on time moving forward. But we're going to review the first 3 episodes, and then next week we'll review the 4th episode. So, Paul, what did you think of the first 3 episodes? Spoiler free, of course.
So I actually enjoyed them very much. I loved the pace. I thought it moved faster than Game of Thrones, so that was exciting for me because I really hate things to move slowly. And everything just started right from episode 1. The drama started, so that kept me in and interested. So anyway, I really loved it, and I loved the setting, the stage, and all.
Okay, Colin, what did you think of the first 3 episodes?
Yeah, for me, I did not watch Game of Thrones that much when it first came out, so I didn't have HBO back in those days. This was before HBO Max. For me, I really liked the political intrigue, and I know that a lot of Game of Thrones fans, politics was definitely involved in the first iteration of this, but this is definitely very involved as well in terms of that intrigue. I like the whole kind of like machinations back and forth between characters, the personal dynamics between characters, and I think that from what Game of Thrones was, the intrigue, the drama, the interactions of characters, the twists and turns, it's all there. It's all there in some echo of what it was before. And I think that reflects on the interest of the show being HBO Max's highest rated show, highest viewers on HBO Max ever. So that's a really good thing in itself for this. And they've already renewed another season of this as well. Definitely looking forward to how the characters progress, where all the twists and turns happen, if there's any shocking deaths. Haven't seen any shocking deaths just yet, but I'm sure that they're going to have a few surprises here and there and going to have people talking about it. And I like the fact that HBO Max also provides that kind of inside each episode, and also they have previewing the next episode, but also the inside the episode, which I really enjoy, like being able to nerd out over that. So overall, great experience overall, and I look forward to more episodes as the season goes along.
Yeah, I like the first 3 episodes as well. I was a fan of Game of Thrones. I'm pretty sure I watched every episode or all the seasons. I wasn't as disappointed as everyone else, or a lot of people were, about the end of Game of Thrones. It wasn't spectacular, but I don't think I was nearly as invested as some people were, because I definitely didn't name any of my children after any of the characters or anything. So I think the end of the show was fine. I don't think it was as good as maybe some of the previous seasons, but it was fine. I appreciate this show in that the scope is a little bit smaller. We're not jumping around a map as much because we're focused on the one family, the House of the Dragon, the Targaryens. So there aren't as many names to learn and random people showing up. We were talking about this when we were doing the Lord of the Rings review. The Lord of the Rings, the show, The Rings of Power, is more like Game of Thrones, the original Game of Thrones show, than this show is, because you're moving around a map a lot in that show. In this show, you're not really doing that. It's most of the action is in King's Landing, a little bit on a Dragonstone, a little bit at the Stepstones, and where I forget where the
sea snake person, right?
The sea snake, where I think it's the Driftstone or the Driftwood or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We hear about other places though. Like you said, we hear about the Starks. We see the ancestors of the Starks. We see the ancestors of the Baratheons. We see the ancestors of the Lannisters that we'll come to know. And we also see that their ancestors are just as arrogant as the Lannisters that we know and love to hate or love to love, depending on how you feel about the Lannisters in the original show. So yeah, all that stuff is cool. It does do some time jumps. There's some time jumps between episode 1 and 2, and there's an even bigger time jump between episode 2 and 3. I assume they're going to do another one between 3 and 4. And this is not necessarily giving away anything that's not in the press, but they're going to do a big time jump at some point, because the actor who is portraying, what is her name, Rhaenyra? They're going to change the actor. So it's sort of, have you seen The Crown on Netflix? It's going to be like that. They showed like different actors played the Queen because they were showing her at different times. So they're going to show her a much older Rhaenyra. I think in the back half of the season, it's going to be portrayed by a different actor. So they're definitely going to be a giant jump at some point in the season. Yeah, I'm enjoying the show and appreciating the political intrigue as a public policy nerd and a political nerd. So yeah, really looking forward to digging into it. You guys have anything else you want to talk about before we get into the specifics?
No, just get into it. Yeah.
All right, so before we do that, if you're enjoying the conversation, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps out out the channel, helps us grow. We appreciate it. All right, spoilers ahead. All right, so since we're going through 3 episodes here, I have screenshots from all of them. We're not going to go through every single scene, and we'll talk as I go through things. So this starts with a prologue by Rhaenys, right? This is the older actor speaking these words. It's not the younger one. Explaining the King Viserys, who had reigned for nearly 60 years here. There was an issue with the succession because his heirs, his sons died. Both his sons died. So they made a decision about who it was going to go to. It was up between his niece here, who's actually the oldest, and first got it.
Actually, I believe that's his daughter.
It's his daughter? I thought it was his niece. It's declared.
Viserys is a nephew, but yeah, because she actually had the better claim to the throne because she was his daughter, but she wasn't chosen because, of course, she's a woman.
It's unclear here how she actually says it. She says Princess Rhaenyra, the king's eldest descendant. Now, she could be I think actually she's not his daughter. I think she's his granddaughter. I think she's his granddaughter, but she's the oldest because the son.
So Viserys is the oldest grandson, and then granddaughter is Rhaenys.
Yeah, but she's the oldest. But she's the oldest. She's older than Viserys. So she's his granddaughter. She's his granddaughter. And this guy is his nephew, but he's younger than his granddaughter is. Happens to be younger than his granddaughter. So I think that's how it goes. Because if he could pass it on to one of his children, there wouldn't be an issue here. But a bunch of his children are dead, so he has to go to extended family here, grandchildren and nephews. So yeah, so he steps over his granddaughter to go give it to his nephew, his younger nephew here. All these people are old-ish, but I guess he's super old. So that's how the whole show is framed. And I think they definitely push this point later on when Rhaenys is named as the heir. Anyway, so this was also really useful. So we're 172 years before Dany. Yeah. So a lot of this stuff is cool. This is definitely a great way to start the show. It shows the city not burned up because the last time we saw it, it was in ruins. This is her dragon Syrax. Yeah, this is her dragon Syrax. And what is her name? Hightower? I know this hurt her. She's a Hightower, but I forget what her first name is.
Ellison, yeah.
Ellison Hightower? Okay. So that's the Hand of the King's
daughter. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's a spectacular way of introducing her because she's definitely very memorable and it's also a good way of showing her character, that she's a dragon rider, because I don't know if everyone in the family is a dragon rider. Everyone who's a Targaryen is a dragon rider, but you see that she's definitely a very bold person from that opening scene. Oh, yeah.
This is the scene about childbirth. So this dialogue was about how the childbirth is like a battlefield, pretty much. This is Emma, the wife of Viserys, talking to Rhaenyra about this.
What I really appreciate about this show is that even characters who pass on, because I don't know if this was a shock death because you only really knew her for one episode, it was an impactful death because she makes her, with this scene and the very small scene that she has with her husband later on when she's in the bathtub trying to get herself comfortable because she's so big, and she implores him that this is the last time. You get a sense of you get a sense of who she is, and you really and you also get a sense that he loves her in that scene as well. So that it's not an easy choice for him to make, but he feels like he has to make this choice. Because
based on rules and tradition and politics, he has to do it.
Yeah. You do get a sense. You get a glimpse at their marriage and their relationships, and that they love each other and they have a good marriage, which, like you said, what makes it eventually him to choose. Yeah, and as a viewer and planning tradition and all of that, it was tough to watch him make that decision, but I
understood from his point of view. Like, his point of view is that I also get Rhaenyra. I could see her being angry with him. Like, you look, I was your firstborn. I've been here the whole time, and you decided to gut my mother instead of just looking at me. I'm surprised that she's not more angry with him for that decision. But
I think I would argue that she was angry up to a point. She was angry until she found out that it was a son that she bore, but he died. So it's but then I lost my mother because of you.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. In some ways too.
Yeah.
But after know if she knew the detail of the delivery.
Yeah.
For me, yeah. So for me, what was really hard or harder to watch was the look on Emma's face when she realized that her husband did not
Yeah,
choose
that was
and she was expecting him to choose her. That
Heart
was
sunk.
like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Her heart
Yes.
just totally sunk. What are you gonna do to me? Like, no, like what the hell?
Yeah. Because also in a weird way, I thought that she would understand why he would choose the son, and I thought that she would be.
I don't
Yeah.
think you'll
She
never be
wasn't.
okay when you choose to be chosen to die. You'll be like,
No.
even if it's like tradition and all this stuff, like, it's still a shock to you. It's like, our chosen to die. It's, like, here's my gravestone. It's, they're not gonna do that. It's gonna be not gonna be ironic about it or anything like that. It's still gonna be quite a shock to her. What? You chose me? You kidding me?
Yeah. And they decided to juxtapose the violence that's happening to her with the violence that's happening on the battlefield when they're doing it here, which I think was an interesting choice to cut between those scenes to show that the real.
It also alludes to what Emma talked about, like chow rearing. Chow rearing was her battlefield, so this is like her battle, basically.
Yeah, that she does not make it out of, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of, so we don't have to talk like for 30 minutes for each one of these. What other major highlights from this episode? We got the first council meeting earlier on as well, and where we first hear about the
crab eater. Yes, the crab eater guy.
The crab feeder.
Crabfeeder.
He's feeding the crabs. So yeah, we hear about him here, and I forget the name of this lord.
It's Corlys.
Yeah, he's from the House Valerian, who's also apparently from High Valyria as well. He makes a point at the end of the second episode that his family is maybe even older than the Targaryens. They just weren't dragon riders; they were seafarers. So that was interesting. I think you can actually see here that his brother's seat is empty because I think his brother would sit right next to him. Yeah, so that you can see that there are three people over here. The hand is over on the other side of the hand of the king is on the other side. There's three people right here, and there's an empty seat right next to him, and that's where he sits later on in the episode. But this is not where he makes his entrance. He makes his entrance later on, sitting on the throne where he shouldn't be. So you see the entrance here. They're both speaking in High Valyrian. It's a very good entrance. Matt Smith is doing the most with this character. He's a very good actor. So I'm not sure if anyone knows him from Doctor Who. He's my favorite doctor because he's like the doctor that I was introduced to when I started watching Doctor Who. But it's interesting to seeing him in this role. Actually, speaking of The Crown, he also played Prince Philip in The Crown as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he played the younger Prince Philip, opposite Claire Foy. So
I think it's also important to note that this is the episode. Not only this is when he is first introduced as the strong, powerful guy, but we also see a moment of weakness when he loses the game.
Oh yeah,
Sir Cole.
Yep.
Right, and it's really sad about it. So I feel like that's like setting the stage for something bigger between the two, because now there's like this new rivalry between the two.
So only reason he loses because he starts to boast. It's very similar to when what's his name? I forget. Martell like boasts when he was fighting the mountain. He had him on the ground, and he started boasting, and then he squeezed his head off of it. It didn't end as badly for Daemon, but it was the same reason. Like, he started to boast, and he was, like, trying to, like, play to the crowd, and then he lost. This is the scene in the bath that I was talking about earlier. That was very sweet. And and she basically says, this is the last time, because, I can't mourn any more dead children. Which is, like, yeah, you can understand what she's saying. It's a very good point. You can only go through that so many times.
Yep.
So, yeah.
It takes a toll.
Then of course, in this scene, we also see him taking the city watch. So he's the one who actually gives them the gold cloaks that we see in the original Game of Thrones show. He was the one who originates the gold cloaks.
They're just brutalizing people. Like, basically just brutalizing people.
It's very
cutting off private parts.
It's very unclear to me whether or not those people that they accused were actually criminals, or they decided to just randomly point to people to put the fear in them so that actual criminals decide not to. Because they just started pointing at people. It's like, murderer. It's like, okay, yeah.
The same thing too. It's like, deserve it. But then I was like, but wait a minute. How did they know that they did it?
Yeah, there was no trial.
Oh, they just make out. Right.
Medieval trial. It's like, I accuse you, and then that's it. Guilty. All right.
No, I think
There's your penalty.
There's nothing like justice in this world, in the world that we're talking about. I feel like they needed to make a bunch of examples. They needed to kill a couple people so people knew what would happen to you if you actually did murder someone. What will happen to you if you actually did someone? So they need to mutilate a bunch of people in a very specific way. And yeah, these could have been just like regular people who had like families and things, and they just like pointed to it. It's like the wrong place, wrong time. Your example is going to be made.
That would be unfortunate. That was the case. That would be very.
That's what it looked like. It didn't look like.
Yeah.
I agree with Paula. It's like at first it seems like this justice being served, but then you're like thinking about it. You're like, wait a second. How do they know?
Yeah.
How do they know? Oh no! Oh no! Like that deformed forever. It's like darn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not just deformed forever. Some of them are just
dead.
Gone because the guy who was accused of murder, they just chopped off his head. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And like I said, could have been just a random like blacksmith or something. Right. It was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is. Jumping ahead a little bit, we get the tournament. As I said, this is the tournament that's set up when his son is going to be born. Try to jump ahead to the point where he loses, where Paula was talking about. I think it happens after the baby comes out.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because while they're fighting, that's when she's delivering. Well, she's they go.
She's in labor for the last couple hours. I think that what's happening specifically is like when she's getting cut out. When it's getting cut out is when they're fighting. Yeah. It'll
be very interesting to see if the other of the knights that did survive, who are they going to be significant characters besides Sir Cole, who beat Daemon here. I wonder if there are any other ones that are there. But it could be, maybe not. But it'll be very intriguing to see if they come up later on.
Yeah. So here it is. This is the part that I was talking about. So like. The baby is cut out of her, and he's boasting to the crowd. He gets knocked down, and he has to yield. Or he was going to get his head smashed in, because we saw, even though this is supposed to be just like a tournament, like a friendly tournament, they're killing people in this tournament. So he could have not yielded and then died. Yeah. So yeah, then he looks a bit silly. And yeah, and battlefield, definitely. Look how bloody the battlefield is for her. So yeah, in this moment, it's a boy, but then you also hear like a weird gurgle from the boy. So it doesn't sound good. And then the next scene, you see the funeral pyre, and you see her, and then you see the baby as well.
And I mentioned before, it's maybe she was upset that the fact that this did not give any type of sympathy to Rhaenyra's being the oldest one, but at the same time, it's okay. Like my brother who's born is dead, and then but even worse, my mother's dead. So what the heck? What the heck happened with all this? And I really resent my father because of all this. So you can definitely see that there was some resentment that was built up as we move on to the second episode.
Yeah, and this is where Otto starts to scheme as
well. Oh, the schemer. And that's so creepy too. He's like talking to his daughters. Maybe you should just talk to the king. He's grieving. Yeah. Just talk to him about history. Be with him. And then he's basically just like prostituting her. And I'm like, you conniving schemer, you evil person, you. And she's like best friends with Rhaenyra as well. It's and how she lived with herself by being like Rhaenyra's best friend. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna sleep with your father. Okay, have the kid.
Yeah, I don't know that she has a whole lot of latitude to disobey her father right now.
That's true.
So I will say later on when she becomes queen, her still listening. Although I have to say, even when she was doing his bidding, she was doing his bidding with her own twist. So like he would tell her to do something, and she wouldn't necessarily follow what he says to do, because
that's true.
She does seem to care about the king, and she does seem to care about Rhaenyra.
That's true.
So he would get them. I think specifically, like you could see if she was trying to play them off against each other. When Rhaenyra says that I don't know if I can speak to my father, she could have used that.
That's true.
She has both sides of that conversation, and she actually gets them to talk to each other by cajoling them. So I think she cares about them, but she also feels like she has to obey her father.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. Like she's stuck in the middle in a lot of ways. But I think that also, as we get to the third episode with the time jump, you can definitely see that the tension is even more compelling as they get older and she becomes queen. So it gets at the beginning. It's okay. You can see that she is very forgiving, and even she is very forgiving. But then I think think by the third episode, she learns her role. At least Alicent learns her role, and then she's okay. I'm queen now. You're gonna have to follow my directions on this. And then Rhaenyra's no, I don't actually. So it's kind of we'll get to see a lot more of that hopefully in the next few episodes.
Yeah, and this is
I think considering her position with her dad and her best friend, I think she's really handling herself well. And like you said, by episode 3, she is stepping into that role of being queen, which is really what she should be doing, especially in that now children. So now she has to look at her children. She has to be a mother now, and they come before and Rhaenyra's feelings.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all based on this like tradition and stuff like that. And even you feel bad for Alicent, but you also sometimes we didn't get to Daemon yet, but like you do get to feel we talked about it before we recorded this. Man, I do feel bad about Daemon in some ways, even though he is a hothead, he's a loose cannon, but at the same time it's like he cares, he loves his brother, and it's why aren't you listening to me at some point, and why are you casting me out? For reasons that are to him, it escapes him because he should be by his side. That's what he thinks. But I should be the heir to the throne. But Viserys being the more kind of measured center guy, he's not like you really don't like you're too highly charged. Like I need someone that's a little bit more measured, and my daughter is definitely more than that. So we learn at I think it was the end of the second. Was it the end of the second episode? Right, that he shows up as an heir.
End of the first episode. It's right here.
Sorry.
It's right here. So he brings him to the throne room and asks him about the heir for a day thing. And this is this conversation, like you said, is interesting because he's like Viserys is saying, I've only ever defended you, and he said that you ever tried to send me away, either to the Vale or to the City Watch. Yet not once have you asked me to be. See, he wants to be the hand. He wants to be the hand, and I think he like I said, I think he would have been a good hand to the king. He's the king. He can choose whoever he wants to, even if it's his brother. I don't know. Kennedy chose his brother to be
exactly. Come on, like
that's Kennedy. So
could have been his Kennedy, but no, come on, man.
So I don't know. Yeah. So it's interesting because I do feel like they do love each other. But yeah, he definitely has him at arm's length because he thinks of him as far less contemplative and far more of a hothead than he is. So
yeah, and Viserys was like fine with Daemon being that was fine up until he was told what Daemon did.
Yeah,
after his son and his wife.
He was fine to an extent. You had to remember that earlier on, after his wife died, there was that meeting without Daemon. Daemon was like working in the shadows. He was behind the thing, saying they were all trying to say, "Oh, Daemon should take over," and people were saying, no, Daemon shouldn't be the heir, and some people were saying Rhaenyra. So they were all vying for different people, even in that conversation, and the king was like, my wife and child has just died, and you guys are picking over the corpses already. I am not having this conversation. So there was already a conversation about whether or not he was the best choice. And then Otto specifically had some spies out to try to get him removed. Daemon should have known, because we saw the antagonistic relationship that they have with each other. They're both picking at each other. He should have been so loose with his talk in public. But it was Otto with spies that,
Yeah.
You know that he's a schemer and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. At that meeting, Viserys defended Daemon as he's the heir, and that was his stand. Which is why, of course, Otto the next day went and whispered to the king what Daemon had done, and then at that point, it was such a huge that Viserys couldn't just let that go. And also, let's not forget, this man is still grieving.
But he had to have his daughter there too. It's to comfort him in some ways at his most vulnerable state. That Otto is like conniving and evil because of that, and then on top of that, he's trying to get rid of his brother, putting his brother on his bad side too. It's that guy he may have some redemption arc. Who knows? He might do something that's like more grayish and less self-serving. But we'll see with him too.
So at the end of the first episode, this is when he makes her the heir. So he calls this meeting and has every single house repledge their allegiance to the crown, but also the heir. And then we see Daemon taking off with his dragon. I don't know, I forget what the name of his dragon. I know the nickname for this dragon is like Bloodworm because he's red and he has a very long neck, but I forget what his actual name is.
Like Cyrex or
Her
something like
dragon
that.
is Cyrex. I forget what that dragon's name is. But anyway, so this is all the houses pledging to her, and that's the end of the first episode.
Oh, so her dragon is called Cyrax. Carax is Daemon's dragon.
Okay, so Carex and Cyrex. Okay. So yeah, this is the beginning of the second episode, and this guy looks like he's the crab eater living up to his name. The other interesting thing from this episode is that her great aunt or whatever, the queen that never was, I forget what her name, Rhaenys. The point that she makes here is a valid one. She's the heir, but instead of sitting at the table here, she's still the cupbearer. She's still just pouring the wine. And even when she pipes up and tries to help out in this conversation, by sending dragons is what she suggested. She's basically shut up, or they're basically looking at her like she's naive. I thought her suggestion was good, but seeing the third episode, maybe her suggestion wasn't good, because Daemon showed up with a dragon and he fought for 3 years and he wasn't able to win. So maybe her suggestion was a little naive, because it would have probably killed a bunch of people, because Daemon did kill a bunch of people when he showed up, but it didn't win the war. It just would have started a war, and I think Viserys didn't want to start a war. So, I will say, Lord Corlys says she at least is trying to do something, and Viserys doesn't want to do anything.
But Corlys, we know that in the second episode, he's scheming in his own, trying to say, you should marry my daughter, who's not of age yet even.
Sure.
Yeah, and she's also the wife of the princess that was scorned. So it's, he has some ways about him as well. It's like
he's more straightforward. I feel like everyone wants power, but he's more straightforward about it. And he doesn't have to scheme, unlike Hightower, because he is the richest person in the realm, basically. He has the richest house in the realm. And his request to marry his daughter, he doesn't have to beg and scrape to say it makes sense, because he's the richest house in the realm. So he can be direct about it.
And also he is Valyrian.
Also Valyrian, and also he basically has the largest fleet in the kingdom as well. If they go to war, they need all of his ships. So he can be very direct about his demands. It doesn't look like he's overstepping, because it makes sense. So this is when, what's his name? This Sir
Christian
Cole he joins the King's Guard. She chooses him, and we see him. I think this is the last time we see him in this episode, and then we see we see him on the bridge. We see him on the bridge later on.
Yep.
See, and I think this is the this is the
Is this the intro? No, it's not.
No, this is not the intro. This is her visiting with him. Basically, this is this is their relationship. Their dates, basically. Yeah, this is their relationship. Their relationship growing, and this is also when earlier I was saying that she actually suggests he's confiding in her that he's finding it difficult to actually speak to his 15-year-old, and she gives him good advice. And then later on, as her friend, she says that it's difficult to speak to her father, and she gives her good advice. Like I said, she cares about both of them. She's doing her father's bidding, but she cares about both of them.
Yeah.
So, this is what the conversation that she has with her. I think they wrote this in here to show that if she was of the same sort of mind as her father, she could have twisted them and pushed them further apart. But she used her influence and the fact that she's in the room with both of them to get them closer together, which she didn't have to do. If she wanted to just usurp her power and just have a child and have her child be the heir, she could have made the distance between them even greater, and she didn't do that.
But go ahead, Paul.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, she could have been a Cersei.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I find it very interesting in that I think it's part of the reason, because that they were both best friends. They were just like the best of friends, and then she was in this kind of position, and then I think that Rin did not really understand that they were dating in some ways. So it's
she definitely feels betrayed.
Yeah, she definitely feels betrayed. And even as we go to the third episode, Rhaenyra told her father, look, the best logical choice I would have been okay with actually was his daughter. Okay, you would have been okay with that. It's but you didn't choose that. You chose your heart. You went with your heart. And we'll get to the third episode later on about her potential relationship stuff. But it was very interesting to see that revolution from 1, 2, and 3 between those two, between Alicent and Rhaenyra. Sorry.
Yeah. And this is where Lord Valerian suggests his 12-year-old daughter, by the way. I feel like they make a big point, Viserys makes a big point about she's 12 and he marries a 15-year-old. It was okay.
Not a big difference.
Yeah, both children, but okay.
Exactly. When they keep saying of age, and I don't know what they mean by that. Do they mean
They mean
of
14.
childbearing age?
They mean 14. Because
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah, because later on he has this very awkward walk with the 12-year-old.
Yeah, what is that all about? It's on their date. It's creepy.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
And then they say that she says that very soon she's 14. She'll be of
like
age
her
and
mother specifically
bedded,
said
right?
that she won't have to until she's 14.
Right.
So this conversation is interesting because she does ask him questions that is interesting. Apparently there's this dragon that's just like out in the wild that they haven't accounted for. That's too big to be inside of the keep. So this conversation is interesting anyway, even though like maybe her questions are things that her father told her
to say.
Yeah, but it is also interesting here that he's okay. What did your mother say? And she said her mother said that here's what her father said: I would give you many children to strengthen your house. And then she's, is that what your father told you to say? And then she looks off like uncomfortably.
Oh boy.
And he said, and then here's
politics.
Her mother said I wouldn't have to bed you until I was 14. So she has 2 years to continue living her childhood.
What fun! 2 more years, and then you basically had in service of the king. Great, in service of your house and the power and glory and the wealth of a house. So great, such is life.
Yeah. And this is the conversation I was mentioning earlier with her. I don't even know what the relationship here is because there's a whole lot of also like incest in this family. You know, what I would have to look at a family tree to see how these two women are related.
It could be niece and aunt. I think it could be niece and aunt.
Maybe, but it would be like once or twice removed though. Like she was the old king's granddaughter, remember? And then Viserys was his nephew. So yeah, it's possible it's possible that she is her aunt. Like the younger woman is her aunt because she was the granddaughter. So yeah, it's interesting, especially with a family with this much incest. Like I said, I would have to look at a family tree just to see how they're related. It's also possible that because there's so much incest, she could also be like her aunt and her cousin and something else as well because of the incest. Anyway, this conversation I think is interesting about whether or not a woman could ever rule, and I think she specifically said like the men of this realm would rather like burn it all down than have a woman rule. Anyway, so having another date here basically, and she gives him a gift that I think in the beginning of the episode the dragon breaks and she mends it for him. So yeah, you see where it's gonna go. So it's not a surprise when he chooses her at the end. Let's see here, trying to see if I'm missing any major points. We still have to go through the 3rd episode. The same that you chose the prince. Cradle. Okay, I forget what that conversation was about. Oh, that was about the egg. That was about the egg. Yeah, that was about Daemon and the fact that he stole the egg. He did this mostly as a stunt to be dramatic. He's not married. He's not going to get married anytime soon. He doesn't have.
Did they establish that he married that woman or not?
No, he's not married to her, and she's not. This was a stunt for attention because he's sulking. And
she did not say
that. She was like shocked. What the hell is wrong with you?
It's just keep me out of your games because you know what? You are
exactly.
No one's gonna kill you. People are gonna kill me just to make a point. Keep me out of your games.
And he didn't do favors at all.
It's a very
if he even loved her, he didn't do her any favors. It was very interesting dialogue too between those two. She's like, he asked her like, why are you in this? And he's like, for protection. It's like, what type of protection are you talking about? This is not really like to him. That's strange. Like you're not really protected from anything. It's all coming from
No, she said. She said freedom.
Yeah.
And he said freedom of what? I think it was fear.
And he's taking that away from her by putting she was very happy being the mistress in the shadows. She was safe in that way. Like she most of these men have mistresses, at least one. So no one's gonna try to kill her because she's a mistress, even his wife. But you put him out, you say that you're gonna marry her. Yeah, people are gonna try to kill her. So yeah, it's not a great situation for her. Oh yeah, and this is Chris Cole basically boasting about how
I beat you.
Yeah, he said I beat you. He's like, apologies, I couldn't recall you. And he said, perhaps the prince recalls when I knocked him on his horse.
Such trash talk rolling there. Wow.
And David, it's very good.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah. So Otto would have been killed here. You know what? It would have been better for everyone else if he actually had been killed here and show up here, because that would have made everyone better. At the House of Targaryen wouldn't have fallen, but I don't know.
End of show. End of show.
I have a question. Am I the only one who feel this unspoken love between Daemon and Rhaenyra?
Yeah,
The necklace
they
I felt
definitely have. They definitely have. He definitely has a very Targaryen relationship with his niece, and that Targaryen in that very close to incest. But yeah, he has a very Targaryen
necklace and like flirting, and there's like that dialogue on the Iron Throne versus her. It's, yeah, you get a sense that might happen. But then in the third episode, I think it was Otto who suggested maybe you should wed Rhaenyra with your newborn. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what the hell?
It's very Targaryen. It's very Targaryen. So yeah, this whole exchange. I think she's the only person that could have gone there and avoided people getting burnt up by that dragon. She's like, I'm here, kill me, and he's not going to kill her because he loves her.
Of course not.
Now,
Yeah.
whether or not he loves her like a niece or something more.
He loves her
Exactly.
way.
Exactly. So yeah, they're very interesting conversation and very interesting relationship that they have here. She basically stops him from dying by flying in.
And he also gives her back the egg too, right?
Yeah. She gets the egg back.
Yeah.
This was the egg that was in her brother's crib. So this is the conversation that we were talking about earlier when she's stop playing games with me. Stop, keep me out of your games. These highborn lords are going to kill me if you keep me in these games. So yeah, we don't see her again in the third episode, but I like her. She's very direct about.
The actress who plays her was in Ex Machina and also in Crazy Rich Asians. So she was the cousin of Nick Young. Yes, she was the one who was about to be married. The reason why Nick Young went to Singapore because of that reason. So she was going to be married. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So she's the one who was married when they had the water down there.
Yeah. That was her. Yes.
Okay. I think this is when we find out that he is going to marry, whatchamacallit, Hightower. And this is the end of the episode where Lord Valerian lies with Daemon. And even in this conversation, you can see Daemon's love for his brother. I get to say whatever I want to about my brother, but you will not. And then we see the Crabfeeder's actual face, the very weird face of the Crabfeeder at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
And then we start the third episode with Daemon flying in with his dragon. Again, the regular people think that these lords care about them. They don't care about them. They care about the glory. So this guy is being nailed to this cross, and it's so up here. Oh, save me, Prince! And then the dragon lands on him. Yeah.
Yep. Oh man.
These people don't care about normal people. They don't.
Yeah. I wonder what he's thinking in the afterlife. That guy is. Oh man. He really let me down there. Man, might want to haunt him at night or something like that.
Yeah. So he names it. So this is actually a 3-year jump. So she has had a child. He's Aegon. Child is named Aegon, and she's pregnant again.
Yep.
And the setting for this episode is that this is his second name day. So yeah, it wants nothing to do with the people because she thinks that she's going to be replaced, basically. And I think one of you guys are talking about, Alicent is actually taking the role of queen here more seriously, but I think she also misses her friend.
Yeah, it's not going to work out. It's like that dynamic's already shifted, and I think that that time jump really solidified that kind of what Paula said, like that maturity, and also that rite of passage. The time has passed. It's, you know what, we've had our good times, but it's like now, and I'm trying to have power. Sorry.
Yeah. They're both 17 now, so they're nearly actually what you would say is like an actual young woman in our time now. So like they're not going to have that relationship ever again, and they have different agendas now. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, it's interesting that in this the king actually admits that he wavered a little bit here because of the white stag. Viserys is I think a good man in some cases, or in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, he's a good man. But he also puts too much stock in like dreams and visions and like symbols. So he almost gave up not the reign. What's the proper term? Her claim to the crown. Because of a white stag. If that stag was not gray and it was white, if it was the white stag that she saw, he would have given it to his son. So because he would have thought that it was like a symbol or a message from the gods or whatever.
The white stag appeared before Rhaenyra.
Yeah, exactly.
Near the end of the episode, so that tells you something.
If you believe in the symbols, sure.
Yeah, but he couldn't. But Rick can just basically say, "Hey, I saw the white."
She could, but I don't think it's in her nature to do that because she knows that they were out to try to kill the stag. Like they would just probably circle back around and try to kill the stag, and she doesn't want them to die. So we see the, like I said earlier, I think when we were talking about, when we were doing the spoiler-free review, the very arrogant Jason.
And drunk too.
Was he drunk?
Drunk.
I didn't show him to him being drunk, but I thought he was arrogant. Like even the king there says like his pride has pride.
This show is very interesting in its characters because it's not just the content that's been built from Game of Thrones, but also like you get to see, this show is really good in terms of the maladies of the people, and you can analyze them, and then also you can make jests of them at some point in time as well. Much more so than a lot of other episodes. A lot of other things that we've seen or we've reviewed. It's very interesting in that regard. It's like, as a kind of like an audience member, you get invested in these characters a lot more, because you could have said, oh, this is the obvious thing to do. And it's actually not that obvious. So it's all this kind of intrigue because of that nature of, and then you get to see a Lannister. It's, that just brings up a whole different layer of judgment and prejudice against the character. And maybe he would be a good person to Rhaenyra, maybe not. We shall see.
I don't know about that.
You're like, I don't know about that. I see too much of Lannister. I don't know.
I don't even really have to see that much of Tyrion was good. I just seen so much. I've seen enough of Jason to know that he's not going to be a great person to her. Even though he's trying to sweet talk her about, I can build. We're so rich, we can build a dragon pit for you. But yeah, I don't know. You think I think her King's Guard guy, even though he's a sir, he is too lowborn to actually be her betrothal. Like she can't marry him. But they keep hinting at the fact that they're going to have some sort of relationship.
Yeah, I'm rooting for that. I think that he's a decent guy so far, but hopefully they don't turn him into some. They don't heal him.
But I don't think that she can have a relationship with.
It's too bad.
Unlike the men in this world who can have lots of different mistresses, women can't do that. Like, she can have a husband, but she can't have him as like a consort. If she does, it's gonna be a scandal. And I think that's what they're hinting at the end. Yeah. If you see the preview for the next episode, I think that's what they're hinting at. That they had a relationship, and she's saying that they didn't. And I think that's, if I had to guess who spread that rumor, it's Otto. Who spread
Otto?
That? Yeah.
But I don't know, was Viserys or was it Corlys who was mentioning another person that Ren should court? It was some guy that was in the battle.
It was what's his name? One of the guys in the council. So
really,
yeah, one of the guys in council, and then Viserys says that, what do you think? You think your son should be her consort, the king consort? And he said, no, you honor me with that suggestion, but no, I think you should try to heal the rift between you and the Valyrian family. You decided not to take up the daughter because the daughter was 12. That's what you say, but like, you created a rift between your family and that, and I think that was actually a good suggestion. You don't see much of the son in this episode except for in the battlefield with his father and his uncle. But I hope to see more of him later on in the season.
Oh, Larys was his name. Larys, yeah.
So this is the Lannister. This is the Lannister giving him the spear, and also whether or not it's going to be the king. Sorry, Rhaenyra is going to be the queen. Is what I meant to say. This is also when Otto suggested marrying Rhaenyra to her younger brother. I don't know. I think it's very Targaryen, but like Viserys it seems to be like the least target of the Targaryens. I know we do a lot of incest. I know we marry a lot of young people, but I don't like any of this stuff.
It makes sense because he fell in love with his wife at age 10 and she was 7. So it's like they had a very long relationship. But you're right. It may be that they were somewhat related. I don't know. Could it be? But they never met. I don't think they mentioned that though.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, what family is she from? Is she from the Vale? I forget. His other wife, the previous wife.
I believe she is.
The previous wife is from the Vale as well. Yeah.
I think she is. Yeah. I feel like it's just really just a case of it's just really loving Rhaenyra and his older wife, and it's just really, he just doesn't even like to talk about duty and all of that he has to do. I feel like he really just wants to operate with his heart.
That's what Rhaenyra is doing too.
Doing the right thing.
Rhaenyra is very similar to that. She is really following her heart as well, like in terms of what type of relationships that she would like to pursue. And even it was towards the end of the 3rd episode, he was like, "Yeah, you do whatever you want because I basically did whatever I wanted, basically in terms of romantic relationships. You should feel that there's a freedom for you to do that." Now, whether or not he's going to renege on that, we'll see. But judging by what he said to her, he's like, yeah, do whatever. Do what you can. I trust you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just going to like forever struggle between doing what he's supposed to be doing as a king,
And
you
being a
know,
father.
duty, and of course Odo, and like of course Odo is like pulling him in that direction. So doing that versus just really
And
following
being
his
the father.
heart.
Yeah.
So I think we're just gonna keep like seeing him going back and forth
Yeah.
with that.
So this is the guy from the council that he speaks to that mentions the sea snake's son. Lionel Strong is he's the one who suggests the snake's son, because he asks about his son and he says, no, you honor me but not no. I think that the sea snake's son, it makes the most sense. And like I said, I think this is also, he seems to be also a good servant, because this is actually this is not a self-serving suggestion. This is a suggestion that actually makes sense, because he has angered the wealthiest house in Westeros. And the other point that he makes here is that he's from Valerian. He's Valerian. It just makes sense. That match would make sense. I don't know if that's what the match is that's going to happen, but we'll see later on, because I haven't read the book either, and apparently the book isn't actually a book. It's mostly it's like a reference guide. So they're like filling in the gaps from the reference guide. So they're out in the woods, and this is when the boar attacks them. It's funny that this is not Stannis Baratheon. Who was the guy who got killed by a boar?
Robert.
It's just fun. Yeah.
Stannis' brother.
Robert Baratheon got killed by a boar in one of the first episodes. So for first and second episode of the season, he dies getting killed by a boar. This is when he wavers and he's there's a stag and maybe I should give it to my son, and he doesn't know. And then he actually sees the stag, and the stag is not white; it is gray. And then as you said, Colin, she sees the stag. She sees the stag here. Yeah, she sees the white stag. This is so, like, did you see Jason Lannister's face when she rides into town with blood on her? He's far less attracted to her now. It's like, that's very unladylike for him. And he's look at his face.
What? Yeah.
As you said, this is when he doubles down on he has a conversation with her. This is more auto scheming. Sorry, saying we know how things are going to end up. Aegon is going to be the heir. Again, she could have gone to him and actually schemed, and she doesn't here. I forget what the conversation here is. Oh yeah. So here she uses influence to get him to go and save or help his brother. So again, she could just be playing a long game here. She could be just like giving him good advice so that he trusts her more, so that eventually he loves her more. So eventually he wants to change the succession to one of her children, or she could actually care about him. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but I think that she is trying to play both sides a little bit, but I think Rhaenyra's just going to keep pushing her away. So it's going to be like making her kind of feel a little insecure about the situation, and then from that point on, she's going to be like, yeah, I think I need to look out for mine when they get older. Maybe there's something like her son that something's going to be planted where Rhaenyra might have to take the blame, and so that's going to further create more rifts between them both. I just sense that they're going to keep drifting apart to a point where she's probably going to have to choose. She's going to be like, look, I'm going to have to take care of my family. Sorry, you're just in the way. Get out of the way now.
Yeah, at a certain point, they're both going to be older. There's going to be a giant jump, and she's going to be less loyal to a childhood friendship. She's, like you said, she's going to have children, and she needs to look out for her children. So as important as the childhood friendship is, even though she has children right now, her children are like 1 or 2. So I feel like she knew her and she had her friendship longer than her children were alive. It's not like she cares more about that friendship than she does her children, but she still cares about that friendship. But with more distance from it, I think she's going to start thinking about her children more than a childhood friendship. Yeah. So anyway, we get a promise from him that on the memory of her mother that he's not going to change succession. So we'll see if that holds up.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
And then we jump to the Stepstones with the fight between the Valerian family and Daemon. So I think this is the son, the sea snake's son, like I said.
You're right. The one that was suggested to Rhaenyra.
Yeah, and I've seen, I think from the trailers, we definitely see him again, like walking down the beach with her. So they eventually do meet. So yeah, and I think this is when Daemon gets the note that his brother is going to send reinforcements, and he basically almost kills the messenger because
Yeah, I didn't get this part. Can either of you explain to me why this is the case?
I understand. I understand.
Okay.
He wanted to do it without his help. He wanted the reason he got into this war. He got into this war, and he wanted to prove to his brother his worth. And his brother let him basically be out on a ledge for 3 years, and he wasn't able to prove his worth in 3 years. And then his brother had to come in and help him. So he's very angry. So by the time he beats this guy up, and then he goes onto the battlefield, I don't care. I have to prove myself now. If I die, I die. But I'm not going to have my big brother come and save me. So I think technically his big brother did come and save him, because like at a certain point in this battle, he would have died if like the reinforcements didn't come. But he's able to like at least show that he went out swinging. Like he had this ploy of surrendering to draw them all out. And he was going to just go on a suicide run to try to kill the Crabfeeder. But yeah, without reinforcements, this wouldn't have worked. And I don't think he actually arranged reinforcements at all. Like they came, but I don't think this was his plan or anything. His plan was to try to run through all these guys and kill them, which was a crazy plan.
Yeah, he was trying to be like, he was just trying to Rambo the whole thing. He was just like, I'm just be like Rambo, and just, here you go, kill me now. It's please kill me.
He would have done.
And then basically got saved by the dragons. Come on.
Yeah, he
bailed out by your dragon.
I don't know who's this dragon. Obviously, the person riding the dragon is another target, but it's probably one of his cousins. I don't know. I don't know who it is. It's not.
No, I think it's the son of Corley who was on the dragon.
No, he can't. They're not dragon riders. Remember, they're very, but they're not dragon riders. So it wasn't him. It was a target, but I don't know who it was. So he gets hit a couple times, and yeah, he's underneath of this thing, and he definitely would have died because he's being until the dragon comes and helps him out, because and also the Valyrians come in as well. The Valyrians come in as well and help him out, and then he goes into the cave and cuts the crab feeder in half. And that's how the episode ends. So we also see at the beginning, in the preview for the next season, for the next episode, that they're gonna make him king of the Stepstones because of this. So yeah, that should be interesting. There are a bunch of kings, or they're mostly lords, they're not actual kings. But Winterfell used to be its own kingdom, and all those things used to be their own kingdom until Aegon came and burnt everything down, and they became lords, as if I remember correctly from the previous show. But yeah, that's the end of the episode. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. They're probably going to do another giant jump. I think Rhaenyra, or the young Rhaenyra, still is in the next episode. I don't think they switched out to the older one yet. And remember from the preview, it's the scandal about what's happening with her, and I think it's probably scandal about Cole that Otto is still king.
Yeah.
You guys have anything else? Any other observations, thoughts, predictions for
just
the next week?
Just looking forward to all the different characters, how they move about in the chessboard. So that's how I feel about the whole thing. It's just there's one big chessboard, and they're moving left and right, down and up, diagonally, vertically. So it's all intrigue from here on for me.
Yeah, I agree.
That is what we think, but we are interested to hear what you guys think. So comment down below, can subscribe to get more content like this, and we will see you next week. All right, guys. Thanks. Bye.